Hello and welcome to Standard Deviation, my column and video series. I'm TCA Sharad Raghavan, Deputy Editor at ThePrint, and I'm going to be talking to you about my latest column on how the government is taking the right approach to foster competition and break emerging duopolies. Now, there are a number of consumer-centric industries in India that have developed into near duopolies. In many of them, the government is directly or indirectly breaking the hold of the top two companies. What is even more welcome is that it's doing this by empowering new entrants rather than laying constraints on the incumbent giants. In all of this, an emerging yet effective tool has been the Open Network for Digital Commerce, or ONDC. Now, formal duopolies, where two companies control all of the supply in a market, won't be created thanks to the vigilance of the Competition Commission of India. However, there are industries such as transport, telecom, e-commerce, and other highly consumer-focused sectors where two companies are currently acquiring massive market share. This is not unexpected, and it's not even unwelcome. India needs big companies in each sector. This is why the government's approach to empower other smaller entrants rather than clip the wings of the giants is a welcome one. Two of the most visible sectors as far as customers are concerned are food delivery and e-commerce. While Swiggy and Zomato dominate the former, Amazon and Flipkart rule the latter. These two sectors are also prime examples of the government indirectly creating a mechanism to break the dominance of the two biggies. The ONDC platform, set up in December last year by the government, allows sellers and buyers to directly communicate with each other. Recently, ONDC has been creating waves by gradually emerging as an alternative to Swiggy and Zomato in the food delivery space. The dominance of Swiggy and Zomato and the fact that they use their own delivery drivers has allowed them to impose high commissions on restaurants that use their platforms. This is something the restaurant owners have been protesting against, but while several of these restaurants in India's metros have opted out of Swiggy and Zomato in the past, they eventually return because of the extensive reach and accessibility that are offered by these platforms. ONDC, while still quite new, can be a potential alternative for restaurants in bypassing the food delivery apps themselves. Restaurants will have to organize their own delivery, but ONDC allows this as well. And the restaurants are free to negotiate better deals with companies like Dunzo, Shiprocket, or Loadshare that can deliver the food for them. And now if the platform takes off, it could also increase competition in the delivery space as well, allowing restaurants to negotiate even more effectively. In all of this, it's customers like you and me that stand to benefit. The ONDC platform stands to do the same for e-commerce as well. At the moment, a consumer looking for a product on Amazon or Flipkart can choose only items that are available on these platforms. Once ONDC is adopted widely, consumers will have access to products across platforms, which means more choice of product and, of course, of prices. Amazon and Flipkart haven't yet signed on to ONDC, but there is considerable unofficial pressure from the government for them to join. Now, while the government has only laid the groundwork for increased competition in food delivery and e-commerce, without actually entering the market itself, it's taking a somewhat more direct approach in the smartphone operating systems market. At the moment, the dominance of Apple's iOS platform and Google's Android OS is nearly absolute. This has allowed them to set the terms of agreements with app developers. In October last year, the Competition Commission of India ordered Google to allow users to delete the pre-installed apps that Google had been putting on Android phones, which is revealing a major way that Google was stifling the competition. Now, a new indigenous mobile operating system called BharOS has been developed by J&K Operations Private Limited, a non-profit organization which was incubated at IIT Madras. While the government wasn't directly involved in the development of this new operating system, its support is evident in the fact that Union Ministers Ashwini Vaishnaw and Dharmendra Pradhan launched the OS and have been vocal cheerleaders of it ever since then. Although BharOS is based on Android, it incorporates features that increase competition among app developers and provide customers with more choice. In BharOS, no apps will be preloaded, allowing consumers to download exactly the ones that they want and allowing app developers to thus compete on a level playing field. Now, it's of course going to be a mammoth task to make inroads into either Google's or Apple's market shares, but it's good to see the government trying nevertheless. But if you want to see even more direct government involvement in increasing competition in a sector, look no further than telecom. The merger of Vodafone and Idea was meant to create a behemoth that could hold its own against Reliance Jio and Bharti Airtel. This did not come to pass. Instead, Vodafone Idea came close to bankruptcy and has survived only because the government agreed to convert its dues into equity. In essence, the government secured the survival of the telecom industry's sole viable third player by acquiring a one-third stake in it. The government's overall approach is correct. Rather than exerting control through the Competition Commission of India and thereby deterring companies from doing business and expanding, the government has instead taken a more light touch approach by creating an environment that fosters competition. For example, there are a few other sectors where duopolies are emerging, but where the government won't take action, and rightly so. In civil aviation, the combined market share of Indigo and the Tata-owned airlines, which are Vistara, AirAsia and Air India, come a little more than 80% in the Jan to March 2023 quarter. Given Go First's current troubles, this combined market share will likely increase further quite soon. The only way that the government can address this is by entering the aviation sector once again, which would be hilarious given how desperate it was to exit it in the first place. When it comes to ride-hailing apps, Uber and Ola are similarly dominant. Here too, it's unlikely that the government will do anything to break this hold. Consumers' hopes lie with new entrants like BlueSmart, which is gained from the government's renewable energy push. And this is how it should be. This approach fosters competition by reducing entry barriers and creating new opportunities rather than curtailing the legally dominant players. This increases the size of the pie instead of simply redistributing the slices. That's all from me. Thank you so much for watching.